Hallelujah. Let the Lord Jesus shine forth. We've got Brother Al Fadi on Skype who is joining us. In the intention, we want to go back a couple of weeks ago where Islamic Dawah team made a claims about the Quran they have from the time of Muhammad, which is identified as Birmingham Folios. Yet by Islamic Dawah team, by Adnan Rashid, it is identified as the Quran from the time of Muhammad. So we've got Brother Al Fadi with us. Peace of Christ be with you, brother.
Thank you so much. Peace of Christ be with you too.
Thank you for joining us. So you are Arabic speaker as
Yes,
well
ma'am.
as you are handling the Quranic manuscripts.
Right now, yes, I am working on that.
Yeah. And have you watched Adnan Rashid's video regarding this one perfect preserved Quran from the time of Muhammad?
I did watch the portion that you referred to right now about the Birmingham folio. Yes,
Yeah.
I watched that portion.
So, can you just enlighten us a little bit what is wrong with Adnan Rashid's claim? He's making a claim that two folio, first of all, is whole Quran apparently, and it is also carbon dated from 568 to 645, and it is dated in the time of Muhammad. And then he went through and then he read for us without any dots. Kind of pretend to read for us Surah 20. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you did touch already on the most important issues. First of all, there is a couple of dating processes that took place. One of them says, like you rightly mentioned, the carbon dating of the folio, meaning of the leather itself, is between 568 AD until 645 AD. That's the range. Now, what is the dating? That's the dating of the skin of the animal itself. No doubt. Nobody can say this is the date of the ink itself. But right there we have a problem, because it could be that if we want to take this to be the date of the writing itself, that means it was written before the birth of the Prophet of Islam. According to Islamic tradition, he was born in 570 AD. And he did not become even a prophet until 610 AD. So 40 years now. Could that be the time when this folio was basically produced? Well, here's why this is a possibility. Because this particular folio that he mentioned contains, interestingly enough, questionable stories of extra biblical sources that the Quran must have borrowed and included in it as if it was inspired by God, like the story of the seven sleepers of Ephesus. It talks about also chapter 19 about Mary. So it has portions of chapter 19, 20, and also a portion about Moses in 20, and portion of chapter 18. Now, that's one problem. The dating itself could be problematic, because could this be the source document that the Quran used to borrow the stories from it? That's number one. Number two, this portion that he was reading from, it's only a portion. How do we know that this is part of a complete Quran? And if it was part of a complete Quran, does this Quran that it came from contain variants? Now, he kept insisting that this particular one is that at the time of the Prophet and his companions. Well, I would argue that there are other recorded quotations from the companions' own Quran, like Ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abbas, Ubay, that have variances in them that do not even match today's Quran. So if this will be part of the same kind of family of manuscripts, then why is he not paying attention to the possibility that if we were to have the full codex, it's not going to be 100% matching today's Quran? That's number two problem. Number three, if we were to take the traditional story that in the year 650 AD, give or take, the Caliph, the third Caliph Uthman, collected what we call today the Uthmanic text, then what he's saying is that he is shooting holes in that story now, and he's considering this to be part of the early Quran, the reliable Quran, the Quran that existed at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, and his companions, when in fact the traditional story says that Uthman basically discounted the Codex of Ibn Mas'ud and the Codex of Ubay and others, and came up with his own eclectic way of reading it. And we know this because traditionally Ibn Mas'ud argued with Uthman, didn't want to even collaborate with him. And then the stories say that later on he surrendered, whether that happened or not. I mean, all that to say is there was friction at the beginning. In other words, Uthman did not really use these early ones. So what Adnan Rashid is saying, that somehow he knows the history of the Quran much better than the traditional story, and he considered this to be the official one. If that's his position, then I'm going to have some bad news for Adnan Rashid. And here's why. Because he needs to pay close attention to the Sana manuscript, which is also another early one. It has also another troubling dates that predate the Prophet sometimes. The same issue could be used with the Sana manuscript, that somebody like, Professor Sadiqi, by the way, who's in Oxford right now, I believe, who did an amazing analysis of it, and I appreciate his work. It's called the Codex of the Companion of the Prophet, known as Sana 1. And he also concluded that while it has some evidence that it could be one of the companion manuscripts, still the traditional story is that Uthman did not rely heavily on it only. He used other copies and came up with an eclectic copy. So is Adnan Rashid discounting now the work of these Muslim scholars who really did an awesome job to help us and help others as well? What authority does Adnan Rashid or expertise has in terms of studying this? Here's the fourth point I thought it was hilarious actually, looking at him. He kept saying that what he's reading is identical to what he has in his hand today. Well, good for him, because he's reading today's Quran that has diacritical markings and dottings. The one that he's looking at doesn't have any of this. In fact, few words could be read differently. So how did he know how to read that one if it wasn't by the guidance of the book that he has in front of him with the dottings and the diacritical markings? So he needs not to mock people who know to read Arabic, or maybe those that couldn't read Arabic. He said not everyone gonna read Arabic, but thank God, he says, Alhamdulillah, I can read Arabic. Good for you. That's great that you can read Arabic. But if I were to give him this without the guide of the book itself, would he be able to read it without assuming that this could be read this way or that way? In fact, there was one word in there, as-samawat, by the way, the heavens. If I were to give it to any Arabic reader, they're gonna read it sometimes as samut. Why? Because the alif is missing. It's not there. How did he know how to read it as samawat in the plural and not a different word? How did he know how to read a number of those words without the dottings on him? So I think Adnan Rashid need to be realistic, actually. Need to realize that what he's looking at is still an early Quranic manuscript that lacked diacritical markings for basically the vowel assistant and dottings. In other words, it could be read in different ways had he not got a copy to guide him when he was reading it. So I don't know why he's excited about this. What is his point, actually? I'm not so sure.
So thank you very much for sharing the bad news for us to him. Let me just try to understand a little bit. So you don't think it is a miracle that Muhammad received the Quran 2 years before he was born, or 42 years before he got the revelation? You don't think that's a miracle of Islam?
Actually, it is an amazing miracle if we can prove this, because that tells me there is a source document. Remember, have you heard of this claim that the Bible, the Gospel, has a source document called the Q document?
Yeah.
Okay, well, now we found the Q document right
For
here.
the Quran.
Yeah.
Okay, so sadly, we don't see it is a miracle that Allah revealed his book to Muhammad 2 years before 2 years Muhammad born. Also, we don't see it's a miracle that Allah revealed his book to Muhammad 42 years before Muhammad received his first revelation. That's the first point. Second point is, when we look at the order of the surahs, they don't follow one another. So where is the rest of Surah 18 or beginning of Surah 19? What happened to them? They should be just next to each other. Anyway,
That's right. That's right.
I'm not gonna touch that one, but like there is huge chunk missing. Just attention. Um, Also, you talked about Uthmanic texts, and am I right to remember actually Ibn Masud was the one who got his hip broken because he did not agree with the Quran Uthman put together.
I mean, these are the traditional stories that we hear.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. I mean, if there were harmony between Uthman and the companions, why did they have to argue? I mean, I don't understand it. I'm looking, dear sister, I'm looking at the lower layer reading of the Sana'a manuscript. And I can assure you and your viewers, including Adnan Rashid if he's watching, it has readings in it that you will not find in the Uthmanic Rasm period. So why is Adnan Rashid convinced that this is part of the companion codices when the other companion codices quotations that we have available for us, by the way, if he were to read Arabic, like he says, I encourage him to read Kitab al-Masahif by Ad-Dani.
Yeah, I've got that.
Or by Ibn Abi Dawood. Okay, so don't come lecturing us on reading Arabic. If you know how to read Arabic, go and read these things and come back and explain to us what happened to those readings of the companions. Why do you have to pick and choose 2 folios and ignore the rest of the Quran of the companions?
Am I right to kind of assume, as an ex-Muslim, you wouldn't see this approximate 60 verses of the altogether Surah 18, 19, and 20 as whole Quran?
Yeah, of course it's not a whole Quran.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, if I was a Muslim today, yes, I can get excited like Adnan is doing. But now I am thinking as a scholar, and I don't see any exciting things here. In fact, I would encourage Adnan Rashid to go and read the amazing work of Dr. Gabriel Said Reynolds, who wrote a 2-page commentary on this and was, as any scholar should be, honest in his assessment about these folios.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think basic conclusion we come from tonight is the Birmingham folios, which is identified as the Quran from the time of Muhammad by Muslims, simply discredits Islam. Just in that 20 minutes part of that video, which sadly I cannot show it because they've got claiming copyright for their videos. But Al-Fadi, thank you very much for helping us to see the points from a scholarly perspective and also from Arabic speaking perspective from Arabic speaking. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
God bless you, brother.
You too.